higher. What I want to start off with is something that we've discussed before, and that's the issue of police brutality. I know this is a history course, but it's all interconnected. First of all, what is the purpose of the police? Gabrielle, what's the purpose of the police?
To protect property.
Then see, you're just gonna rehash what I said before, but most people don't think that's the case, right?
No, it's supposed to be protecting the serve, but it's to protect property first.
Right.
To protect property owners and property.
Do you know where that comes from? Do you know why that's the case? I mean, do you?
No, I don't.
But do you think that that's like a class related or a race related phenomenon? Do you think?
I mean, I would love to say that and say it's the conspiracy theory, but I think maybe because the people that are appointing them with their job, giving them specific orders to protect certain things, and they may want to protect you, but they got to get to your house first, because that's what they've been told to do by the person over them.
All right, so let's take that concept and put it together with, we've been talking about communism, socialism, capitalism, fascism, all these isms that we've talked about. Do you think that's a capitalist idea? That the purpose of the police is to protect property? You think that's a capitalist idea?
I'm sorry, can you recap what capitalist means? What side of the fence that's on?
Well, capitalist is about the main aspect. I wouldn't want to just completely generalize it as like for the rich, but it's like survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
It's about private property,
yes.
private ownership.
Because just like you said, private ownership. If you have private ownership, you need somebody to maintain your private ownership, because it is private ownership.
Right.
But if something happens to your private ownership, like I throw a rock through your window.
Right.
Not the police because now I got to call and tell them that you damaged my private property, which is the same thing we talked about a couple of days ago.
But in actuality, this police to protect private property is a socialist idea. It was coined by a brilliant socialist named Ferdinand Lassalle. He was a German economist, satirist in the early 1800s. And he coined two very important terms that we live through today. One of those terms was the night watchman state. And what that is and what that says is that the purpose of government is to provide the police, military, and the courts. And that's it. And the reason that they have those entities is to protect private property. Now, another term that he coined was the Iron Wage Law. Now, we talked about this a few weeks back, which means that a business owner will pay his employees just enough to live and no more. And there's a set pot of money that he has set up for that. Now, he can extrapolate that money any way he wants. And the workers fight for that one pot. You can strike, you could walk off the job, you can protest, you can do all these things, but that pot of money is never going to get bigger. It's never going to get bigger. You can cut it this way and you can give some part of that employee base can get a little bit more. Another part of that employee base can get a little bit less. Maybe you can purge some of the employees. But that pot's never going to get bigger. It's never going to get bigger. Because it is solid. It's stationary. Like iron. That's why it's called the Iron Wage Law. And all of these concepts, the night watchman state, the Iron Wage Law, these all fall into the category of political economic systems. And each one of these, private property, class designation, resources, power, all of those things take up a particular part of each one of those philosophies. Now, we learned about capitalism, we learned about communism, and what did I get? What did I tell you guys? I said those are the two extremes. In between those are all the other little isms: socialism, fascism, authoritarianism. All of those things fit in between there, but those are the two poles. Now, as we fall into these, can you look and see and tell me where race plays a part? Private property, class designation, resources, power. Get your binder. Power. Where does race play a part? Because that's all we holler is race, right? That's everything we talk about is race, isn't it? So where of these extremes, where does race play a part?
Class designation.
Class designation? That's a good choice. But
Power.
I mean, huh?
Power.
I started to say power, but how?
Power. All right, but let's do class designation first. All right. Do you have more in common with a poor white person or a rich black person?
Or a white person.
Poor white person.
All right, but
No.
society
Let's say
has pitted you against each other, haven't they?
Yeah.
When you see a white person, all you looking at is their differences, right? You
Yeah.
know, he listen to country music, or he can't play basketball, or something like that. Or he's looking at me. He want to call the police on me. On Facebook, they had these little memes where they have people calling the police on black people for doing asinine things.
anything.
Yeah, and we get highly upset about that, right? Is that a class issue? Or is that a race issue?
That's a race issue. That's a class of people, which is the race.
All right. What I want you guys to see, in the whole point of the end game of this lesson, is to see that class designation is way more important than racial division.
What's the difference?
I'm gonna tell you the difference. And as a teacher, I'm not supposed to tell you how to think. I'm just giving you some pieces of information, and you can discern how you feel about it. So I'm very cognizant of not trying to teach you how to feel or tell you what to feel. But there's a lot of forces that point you guys in certain directions. You say, this is how you should feel about these people. This is how you should feel about this. But one of the things I want you to see, and the reason why I put this unit together with all the little isms, capitalism, socialism, communism, and designated that there were two different political and economic systems that flow together and work in a symbiotic relationship, is because from the beginning of time, it has been rich versus poor. French Revolution. Why did the French Revolution start?
To cast out the poor people so the rich people can get rich.
But that's what was happening. The king at the time was living fabulous, and the people were getting poor. And the women, without marching in the streets, say, "We just want some bread." What about the Russian Revolution? Was it kind of similar?
Mm-hmm.
Remember, you guys did the Venn diagram. Similarities between the Russian Revolution and the French Revolution. We're going to talk about the Cuban Revolution. What was that about? A lot of the same things. And these are Cubans against Cubans. These are Russians against Russians. This is French against French. But it was rich, poor. It was caste systems. It was class designation. And communists, Karl Marx, Friedrich Engels, say that there should be a commonwealth, and that we all should there shouldn't be any class system. That we should all be equal, and all of our money should be pulled together and for the subsistence and the happiness and sustaining of everybody. Have we seen that happen? Why? Because it seems like every time there's a revolution, what is the result?
Somebody winning.
It's somebody winning, but there always becomes a struggle.